dig at Drunvalo, a nice one. I mean, I'm not being too nasty. I find it interesting that he is able to perceive the continual variance in the magnetic fields of the humans around him, yet does not expand his thinking to apply that idea to the magnetic field of the planet upon which he walks. There's no reason that anything should be stable in this universe since we've never seen stability. In fact, it's kind of stupid of us to even postulate it. So, long way of saying, no, I don't think we're going to go walkabout, but I think, yes, there's all kinds of weird-ass magnetic effects that are going on, and instability is the nature of the planet. It's the nature of the way. And so, really, this is what martial arts and discipline is all about. In the sea around you, you need a stability internally or under your feet that allows you to navigate. So as we'll put it into sailor terms here. So I need a rock solid boat, so to speak. But I don't want my boat to be a rock. I want it to be flexible and float with the water and react to the circumstances in which the universe will throw at us. And so our point of stability has to be basically internal, since we're talking about, metaphorically, us navigating the seas of universe. Our boats are our bodies and our thoughts, etc. And in that sense, the stability that we would gain can't be achieved by a rigid shell, because that's antithetical to the way that universe works. And so we'll never see anything that's antithetical to the way that universe works pop up. If it does pop up, well, it's part of the way universe works and is antithetical. So it's one of those weird little debating points that drives you crazy. But there is a factual component to that. The nature of the universe supports continual instability. We need to recognize this and get our minds wrapped around it, because that allows us then to say, okay, if I'm going to be buffeted continuously by instability both within my own body and within the bodies of the people around me and within the body of the planet and within all the magnetic fields of the solar system in which I exist, where can I go for a core or a center or a point upon which to base my navigational abilities within this media? And many of us choose to go to a discipline, yoga, meditation, tai chi, any of the martial arts. Any of these things, and painting, music, cooking, hairdressing, I mean, anything pursued with the intent of mastery that becomes a center upon which you can base your navigation is an effective core for you. It need not be basically, what I'm saying is the esoteric, meaning the internal perception of universe and projection of ourselves upon universe, can be achieved through any vehicle. It could be as bizarre as the magnificent sand sculptures, that the Buddhists put all the labor into and then destroy when it's done. Because they understand the nature of instability. It can be, as I say, hairdressing, because, it's there and it's gone, or nail painting, or even tattooing, because tattooing alters and you understand the nature of the growth of the body and so on. All of these things point to the ability to navigate through the instability that is around us. And if we remove from our perception and our goals the idea that stability should be there, then first off, it eliminates all kinds of anxiety. It's like, screw it, shit happens, and it's bound to happen, and we just need to be able to figure out how to deal with it, rather than attempt to try and fend it off because we think there should be some other natural state of existence. Make sense? So in that sense, go and look at all of Drunvalo's arguments and his evidence, and I would invite him to do the same, postulate a different view of reality in which instability is the norm and not the exception, and that therefore instability just simply is a matter of degree, and change is an inherent nature of it all. And you can start postulating and you get actually a little bit more settled about it all, because we're going to have a magnetic pole shift because the magnetism flips all the time, but there's never been any real evidence of crustal shift, and there's no real worry about that. There's a reason to fear the earthquakes, because we'd get big ones, because there's all kinds of evidence that the earth rips itself apart periodically, creates new separate land masses in jerks and fits, as well as doing little separation growth in the little bloop 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 approach, as it gets new matter internally. The two are not mutually incompatible because we see both violent eruptions on the sun and steady growth. We see this all around us continuously. It is just a nature of the universe that there is an expression of this level of duality. I imagine it's going to be very catastrophic, but the idea that we're going to have any kind of a crustal shift in terms of the planet going walkabout and having a new axis is rather difficult to fit into my point of view. Further, there's other evidence that suggests that everything in the universe tilts at a specific angle relative to the little bloop approach of where it popped in. So the idea that our Earth is tilted over at a certain angle relative to the orbit and all the other planets are, and that angle should change, I also find that difficult to comprehend. Now, in Drunvalo's evidence and in his discussion, they were discussing about the tremendous amount of energy required to have a crustal shift occur, and I agree. The energy required would be on the order of a moon hitting us or something along those lines. And there's never ever been any evidence that such amounts of energy were input in to our planet at all. And in fact, there's all the evidence pointing to the energy going the other way. And it's kind of like you can go to any academic on the planet that talks about tectonic plate theory and say, okay, guys, show me a subduction zone. And they'll say, well, there's a subduction zone off of the Strait of Juan de Fuca where the Pacific plate goes under the U.S. plate. And you say, okay, how will it look different than any other part of the planet where we're going to have, say, the volcanoes and the expansion and so on? And they cannot describe to you any single thing you can go down and look at and find that would allow you to think that the area you were seeing was a subduction zone. You don't see any subduction of one plate under another. You don't see any lines in the sediment that indicate that. You don't see any heat lines. You don't see any melting points. You don't see a continuous long ribbon of grinding material against each other showing up in any form or another. There's no heat signature to that effect or any of that. In fact, when you go to the rupture off the point of San Juan de Fuca plate here off the coast of North America, you discover, hey, why, it's an expansion zone. It's just chock full of volcanoes and all kinds of stuff popping up all the time as it expands, not as it contracts and gets ground underneath each other. So there is no such thing as a subduction zone. It's a theory that was plotted to support the other theory, which was that the tectonic plates go walkabout on a relatively stable sphere whose diameter and circumference don't change. Again, that's not happening. So we'll see on December 21, and I'll be doing an interview on that day with Dan and some of the other guys, and we'll just see how it happens. But I don't think that'll actually be the case. But Drunvalo is wrong in the interpretation of the evidence, not in his approach. Okay, so now a couple of other things here. I've gotten some criticism for the world government of world citizens because a lot of the people that are on some of the commissions and some of the other individuals that have the passports and stuff are part of the problem. You know, the Obama and Agenda 21 guys from the UN. Plus, there's all kinds of words referencing the UN all over the world government of world citizen site. And I would beg to point out a couple of things. If you go and read Gary Davis's book, you see why that is the case. He uses the UN to throw their words right back at them. UN made these proclamations. Well, hey, we can use their tools, their weapons right back at them. A weapon turns both ways. And also, that's the point of giving these passports to all of the heads of state and all of the creepy guys at the top end of things. Because it adds to the legitimacy of these each and every time that they're used any other spot. And here's the whole point of this. It is impossible, in my understanding of things, for a small group to hijack the world government of world citizens because of two things, or three things, really. Can't exclude anybody. Everybody is de facto and de jure, if not declared, citizen of the planet. The documents, once issued, can't be withdrawn. And the third component is that there's just too many of us, and we are too fractious. So the idea that this is an organization in the sense of, like a political party or something is erroneous. And in my mind, it'll never ever get there. And if we got to a global parliament, that would be great, because in its nature, you would almost have to have that global parliament be global. And that is to say, every single person in the parlement, the space of speaking, would have a voice. Therefore, by its nature, you would not have representational government. The world government of world citizens, by its nature, cannot be allowed to become representational. It must be ubiquitous. And probably the internet is the basic vehicle that would allow this to occur. But because of the ubiquitous nature of this, everybody being their own representative, or having the ability to just point to somebody who is articulate and so on, and you want to speak for you at that moment, saying, you be my speaker, then that allows us to get around the situation that has occurred in the United States, where the factions have arisen and driven out everybody else by setting up barriers to entry and representational government and pyramidical structures and so on. By its very nature, the world government of world citizens is not pyramidical. It is a neural net in that fashion. And we just are around the whole planet. That's the symbol here, a man reaching, or a human being reaching around the whole of the earth, because that's the case. It's all of us joining hands. And then the last component of this, why it'll never ever end up being representational government and a pain in the ass, is because the admonition that you take when you come on into this, to live in the present. And that is an extremely powerful thing when placed into the hands of debaters. So yes, I agree. There's a bunch of individuals that could be characterized as UN stooges, or Agenda 21 stooges, or primps, or promulgators, who have shown up on the commissions and so on at the world government of world citizens. But you'll also know they ain't done shit with it, and that's because the type of organization that it is, they're not able to take it over. All they've done is to get themselves a certain level of prominence within that particular commission page, and note when it was last updated at all, and you'll see that this is not a particularly effective organization. That is to say, the world government of world citizens. Nor should it ever be. We don't want a real government that way. We want a flattened neural net. And so the effectiveness should be limited to getting the individual citizens and the countries out of the way, or get the individual citizens out of problems and get the countries out of the way of the bigger issues, allowing the individual citizens to get in there and take them over. And I'll be discussing the methods that the world government of world citizens offers to us in some debates with some really interesting radio guys over these next few weeks. And I actually think it'll be quite exciting to get in there and present this viewpoint and defend it against perfectly valid other viewpoints, such as the de jure citizen movement. And many of the tactics are the same, and most of the goals are the same. I just think that this is a brilliant opportunity to basically subsume the UN and the New World Order from within and take them over. So we can get into some of those details as we go forward. But believe me, anything I would ever join, I don't join organizations. I belong to my dojo, and that's it. So any organization I join, I will bend to my will or not be a part of it. And my will would have the world government of world citizens be absolutely flat, non-pyramidical. Nobody's a boss of me. That's one of the precepts of this thing, is that you are not beholden to anyone. You have the right and you have the right to express yourself as you choose, and that means leaving your country and coming back into it, the place of your birth, anytime you choose, regardless of the fucktards that have declared themselves the rulers of that particular chunk of land. I mean, that's bogus. You know, you got all these 41 million, I think, displaced Palestinians that were kicked out because the Brits decided that they owned that area of turf, and they were going to give it to some people to cause problems and be a thorn for other individuals. Later on, and they used as a basis the quote historical BS of the Bible to invalidate the rights of the individuals living on that land. And they kicked out 41 million Palestinians and killed who knows how many more. over the fiction, and they were also, by the way, you note, not living in the present. In the present, there ain't no God here saying that the Jews own that area of land, right? And in the present, there's no one saying that Korea's got to be split